I'm George Wrighster, and it is time for the Unafraid Show meets Bleacher Report. So I'm glad you guys are here on the Bleacher Report app. If you're watching on YouTube or X or wherever it is, go get the Bleacher Report app because you can go check it out there as well. And the college football playoff rankings are going to come out from the committee tomorrow on Tuesday, and this is the first rankings of the year. And right now, things look extremely muddy because as I calculate things, we got about 20 teams that are still alive to make a 12-team playoff. And yes, there are some other scenarios where some other folks can make it, but that's really about the end of the list right now. And in usual years where it's a 4-team playoff, it's really only about 6 teams that can really have a shot to even make the playoff. So this is great for everybody. And remember all the people the previous years talking, oh my gosh, we're at 4. 4's the right number. And they were crying about it all over the place. No, now everybody knows that the expanded college football playoff, it is good for everybody. And this is the new normal season. And right now, the waters look extremely muddy, but they are about to clear up this weekend slate of games and over the next 3 weeks, it is all going to become crystal clear who should be in the playoffs. And the campaigning is about to start. If you guys are like me, you guys are like, oh my God, thank God the election is tomorrow so I can get all these damn election ads off of my feed. I can just get back to watching games without hearing about who's voting for who and who's bad and who's evil and all of those things. But you know what? If you are like me and you were thankful about that, well, just know it is about to start right back up because you, instead of inflammatory political ads, you are about to get the college football edition of that. Prime example, look at last year. So for 3 weeks after Jordan Travis got hurt, Florida State starting quarterback, you saw it all over the place. Oh, Florida State is not worthy. Maybe Alabama should be in. Maybe if they beat Georgia, they should be in. 3 weeks of discrediting Florida State. And then it worked. But this is the new normal season. And I'm going to encourage every college football fan because the college football rankings are going to come out tomorrow, and we're going to preview them here in just a couple minutes. So we're going to give you what it should look like. But this college football rankings, they're coming out, and there are a bunch of underperforming big logos. And when I say big logos, I'm talking about college football blue bloods that they're going to be trying to give you the disinformation, misinformation to give them the benefit of the doubt. Because at the end of the day, the big names sell the tickets, the big names make the money, all of those things. However, right is right and wrong is wrong. So ain't no benefit of the doubt for the logos here. And you guys are going to hear things like, oh, Alabama would for sure beat Boise State or BYU. Are you sure? We're talking about the same team that lost Vanderbilt, right? Exactly. And you guys can make sure that you guys leave a comment on the Bleacher Report app. We'll get to them here. And you can, and we will, if you leave them, send them in to at Unafraid Show, at George Wrighster. Go to Unafraid Show on YouTube. We will get to all your comments there. But are you sure that Alabama would beat them teams? And Georgia. Oh, Georgia would for sure beat SMU. What are we talking about? Are you sure? Because if a Florida team with a true freshman quarterback, if DJ Lagway doesn't get hurt, that cast of backups and freshman running back might end up beating Georgia. And they still went down to the wire with a walk-on. Oh, George, Clemson and Texas, they would absolutely beat Indiana. Oh, just throw Indiana in the trash if it's close. What? Indiana been beating the hell out of people. Come on, man. Truth is the truth. Truth is the truth. And I love how this 12-team playoff has worked out with the conference realignment. Look at what we have in the Big Ten. Nobody has beaten Ohio State and Michigan in the same season since 2015, and Oregon just pulled off the double right there. You got SMU over in the ACC. They're paying their way $200 million into the conference and acting real inhospitable when they got in there. Oregon in the new conference in the Big Ten, SMU over in the SEC putting their feet up on the couch like Rick James. I'm Rick James. F your couch. That's what they in there doing right now. But this weekend slate of games, bro, it is going to be crazy. And people will tell you, "Oh, who has Indiana played?" And I saw that in the chat. Who has Indiana played? Who has Texas beat? Who has Texas beat? If we're really being honest, who has Texas beat that's any good? Texas beat Michigan. Yeah, unranked 5-4 team. They beat Colorado State, UTSA, Louisiana Monroe, Mississippi State, unranked Oklahoma. They got strangled by Georgia, and then they just beat Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt is Texas's best win. So let's slow down with bashing Indiana while we're sitting here acting like Texas is that they've just had a world beater schedule. And I like Texas. But this is what I told you guys. We are going to be honest here on the Unafraid Show with Bleacher Report. Truth is the truth. All right. But this weekend slate of games is going to make it very clear and very obvious. Because I'm telling you, somebody is going to get upset. You got Georgia, who's been playing shaky football against Ole Miss. Carson Beck has thrown 11 picks in his last 5 games. And they're a 2.5-point favorite at Ole Miss. This has potential upset written all over it. And then you're going to have people say, well, Ole Miss and Georgia deserve to be in the college football playoff. The SEC is the best conference there is. So why does the SEC have a losing record in the non-conference versus Power 5 last year and Power 4 teams this year? I'll wait. Somebody explain that to me, how this is the best conference. Historically, yes, I will give you that. But right now, the last 2 years, that ain't the truth. That's just reality. And then you got LSU and Alabama, which should be a game that the loser is fully eliminated from the playoff. We have Michigan, Indiana. So for all you people that are like Michigan or Indiana hadn't played anybody, well, that's the same team that you're talking about that Texas get a win for. And if Indiana beats up Michigan, then what you gonna say? There is a dark horse team that I want people to pay attention to, and that is Colorado, who is sitting at 19-20 in the polls. And they have a legitimate shot to get into the Big 12 playoff. And Big 12 championship game. And if they make the Big 12 championship game, imagine the Deion Sanders chatter, boy. If they win the Big 12 and end up with not only in the college football playoff, but a top 4 seed. So all of them people bashing Deion, it will be time to Anita Baker. I apologize. It's going to be time for a real apology to that man. I'm just saying. Oh God, another media guy riding. No. See, here's the thing is, if you go on the Unafraid Show, I've been one of the people that has been knocking Deion for the stuff that I thought he did wrong. But I'm a person who believes that if you are going to criticize people publicly, which I have done to Deion, when he does a good job or when people do a good job, you should praise them just as loudly. That's how we work around here. We got Washington, Penn State, and we got BYU, Utah. Big games. Miami, Georgia Tech, because Georgia Tech beat Miami last week, and Florida, Texas. But I think that one will take care of itself. So there's a lot going on when it comes to this college football playoff. And we have to try to understand, dissect, and pay attention to what the committee is going to do. So you got to think about who's on the committee. You got a former Oregon State and Nebraska head coach, Mike Riley. You got Randall McDaniel, former, obviously, NFL player, Arizona State football player. You got Gary Pinkel, former Toledo and Missouri head coach. Mac Rhodes, Baylor athletic director. Hunter Yurachek, Arkansas athletic director. Carla Williams, Virginia athletic director. Chris Alt, hopefully I didn't butcher his name, Nevada athletic director. You got Chet Gladcock, Navy athletic director. Jim Grobe, former Baylor head coach. Michigan athletic director, who is the committee chair in Manuel, and you got David Saylor, Miami of Ohio athletic director, Will Shields, former NFL player and college football player as well. Um, and then you got Kelly Whiteside, former college football reporter for multiple outlets. So that's who is made up of the committee. All right, so let's get to the top 12. Right now, here is how it should be based upon the three most important criteria: quality wins, schedule played, and dominance. That's how you came up with the top 25. And so, but we are going to get to first thing up, the first teams out. The first two teams out of my playoff bracket are the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Ole Miss Rebels. Those are the two teams that are out. But obviously, those two teams can get their way potentially back in, with Alabama beating LSU and then having some good fortune around them. And then with Ole Miss beating Georgia. And if they beat Georgia, that's going to send Georgia to the outhouse, fam. With that Alabama loss and that Ole Miss loss, back to the back of the bus. Oh, but you can't leave Georgia out. Yes, we can. Yes, we can, fam. And it's going to be very, very easy to do it. So we got to pay attention to how this all works. And so I want to tell you guys, in case you do not understand, so the first four seeds who are going to get buys, they are going to be the highest ranked uh, of the Power Five, of the power schools, plus the group of five schools. So you got six, so you got five options right there of who can get the top four seeds. So the highest ranked of the conference champions is going to get the top four seeds. So that's how it works. So now it is time to reveal the bracket as it should be. We're going to start with number 12. Number 12 in the bracket goes to the Boise State. Goes to the Boise State Broncos. And the Boise State Broncos are a team that has their only loss is to Oregon. And that it wasn't a blowout either. And I think that is the thing that Boise State has going forward for itself the most, is that they can say, oh, that Oregon game was close. That Oregon game was close. So we can actually hang with anybody and hang with the big boys. And so you got Boise State, who has wins against UNLV, who's a legitimate team. They beat Washington State, who's in the top 25 as well. All right, number 11 in the rankings is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And I know that they have that nasty Northern Illinois loss, but you know what else they got? They also have a nice win over a Texas A&M team that people want to tout all over the place. And this is where brand kind of matters a little bit in terms of how the College Football Playoff Committee is going to react. But they just beat a Louisville team. Well, they also beat a Louisville team who stomped out Clemson. They beat up Georgia Tech. They beat a ranked Navy team who people were excited about. So between that Texas A&M, Louisville win, and the Navy win, they're in pretty good shape. And they still got Army and USC on the schedule. And if Army's still ranked, listen, they are going to be absolutely in there. Number 10 in the rankings, a team that people are not going to want to see this high up, but this is SMU, Southern Methodist University. And they deserve it. They have earned it. And I know a lot of people aren't going to want to hear that. And they are in the catbird seat to get into the ACC championship game. They have beat, their only loss is to BYU, who's ranked in front of them. But they have beaten Louisville. They just beat an undefeated Pittsburgh team. They took care of Duke, who Miami just had trouble with. So this is a good football team. But people don't like the logo as much as they like some of them other logos, so they'll try to discredit it. Number 9, we have the Tennessee Volunteers. And this Tennessee Volunteers team, and remember, I told you, three most important criteria: quality win, schedule played, and dominance. Now, Tennessee has been dominant on the defensive end. And I believe that Tennessee is the second best team in the country now for two reasons. Number one, their defense has not allowed more than 20 points this season. And then number two, they have not, their young quarterback, Nico Iamaleava, is now playing good football. That puts them in great territory to be able to not only win the SEC, but win the national championship. Number number 8 in the rankings, the Indiana Hoosiers. Now, I want everybody to pay attention to their schedule, right? Their schedule. They get Michigan this week, which everybody's going to be excited about, hoping that they lose. And then they get a bye week, and then they get Ohio State. And I want everybody to pay attention to that because Ohio State plays Indiana the week before they play Michigan. And all eyes are going to be on that Michigan game. And I actually got that Michigan-Ohio State game circled because I think that game's going to be much closer than people think because Davis Warren's playing better, but that's a whole nother conversation. Number 7 in the rankings, the Texas Longhorns. They have earned it to be up there at this point. Now, we probably did overrank that Michigan win in the beginning of the season, but such is life. It happens in college football. Florida. They have Florida at Arkansas, Kentucky, and that Texas A&M game at the end of the season. That's the one that's going to be for all the marbles. So for everybody that thought, oh, these games won't matter. Yes, they do. They will continue to matter. And the ones at the end of the season are going to be spectacular. And I just want to point out, Texas has no November cupcake. No November cupcake. Unlike Alabama, who got Mercer in 2 weeks. Mercer. Get out of here. Number 6, we have the Penn State Nittany Lions. Penn State and that awful offense are still in the college football top 6, as they should be. Their rankings are, their offensive performance against Ohio State was absolutely putrid, and we've watched James Franklin do that for 8 years. They are going to have an early exit out of the playoffs, and that's just reality. Number 5, we have the Ohio State Buckeyes, as they should be. Now, I want to point out something from this weekend about Ohio State. And remember how many times that we have seen on the television this weekend after the game. How many people on your television said, oh my God, look at that amazing Ohio State offensive performance. Wasn't it great? Masterful. No, it wasn't. They were playing against a Penn State team who couldn't move the football barely because they were running a triple option offense. And the Ohio State offense, Will Howard didn't even play that great. I don't know what this pumping up of Ohio State's game. It was great that they won, but everybody acting like that was some offensive masterpiece. It wasn't. Chip Kelly schemed up 2 plays, kind of trickery plays, 4 touchdowns. It wasn't like they were just marching down, scoring all over the place. But that's just, but I digress. And in the chat, I was just called a Alabama hater. No, I'm not an Alabama hater. Truth is, Alabama's hating on themselves right now. And playing Mercer right now in November is lame. It's always been lame, and it's lame when everybody else does it. All right, so you got SEC comment in the chat. SEC strength of schedule is tough, and we're killing each other while the other conferences are not ranked. Because the SEC got overranked in the beginning of the season. Does anybody not understand this? And for all the people that want to prop up the SEC, historically, yes, the SEC has been the best conference in college football. But Alabama and Georgia have been carrying the way for the last decade. And the other part of the situation before we reveal the top 4 is that, and I said it before, the SEC has a losing record in the non-conference this year and last year. So square that with me, how this is the best conference top to bottom, and they have a losing record in the non-conference. The math ain't mathing. All right. Number 4, as we get to these rankings, is the BYU Cougars. The Cougars, look at them. And I know that most of you have not seen BYU play. Are they the most explosive, physically gifted team that you ever seen in your whole life? No. But they block, they got a big, good offensive line, defensive line good, some good skill position players. And the BYU, I didn't call him that. He calls himself that. Their quarterback, he's doing a good job as well. This is a good football team. Number 3, the Miami Hurricanes. Now, I have called watching Cam Ward the full Cam Ward experience because I watched every single game this dude has played since he transferred from Incarnate Ward to Washington State. The full Cam Ward experience is he will play great, do some amazing things. Then he will make a ridiculously terrible interception like he did against Cal. And then he did this weekend against Duke, running out to the sideline, throwing back to the middle of the field. And then he'll come back and make some heroic plays that'll get you back in the game. But the difference is that I do wonder if that is going to be able to keep up in the college football playoff, because they're going to breeze to the ACC conference game. But in the college football playoff, is this defense, which has been giving up buku points, going to be able to hold up? But you know what? I am not going to scrutinize Miami the same way because you know what? Everybody making excuses for all these other teams. So make them same excuses for Miami, please. All right, number 2 is the Georgia Bulldogs, because they're on top of the SEC right now. I do think that Tennessee is the best team, and Tennessee is going to beat them in 2 weeks. But that's a whole nother story. But right now, this is where we are with the Georgia Bulldogs. And number 1 is them Oregon Ducks. Oregon Ducks at number 1 in the college football playoff. And, I don't think that there's any debate on that. But now we got to go to filling out the rest of this bracket, right? We got to fill out the rest of the bracket. Then we will get 2 more of your comments and everything as well. All right, so let's look at the top of the bracket. We got Indiana and Tennessee. I just told you I think that Tennessee is the second best team in the country. So, therefore, the Tennessee. Oh, okay. So we're not going to fill out the bracket today. We will just get to your comments right now, and you guys can go on the Unafraid Show if you guys on YouTube, if you guys want to see the rest of the bracket filled out, or at George Wrighster on Twitter, wherever, because you will see the whole bracket filled out tomorrow, as it is right now. So you guys can send in your comments in the chat. And and just in case you don't know who I am, let me give you a little bit of a background. 7-year NFL veteran. Played with the Jacksonville Jaguars and with the New York Giants. Played also in the UFL out with the Las Vegas Locos. Played at Oregon. Yeah, been a college football commentator, host, called games, everything in between as well, just in case you were wondering. Them credentials, buddy. Okay, so let's get to the question. So somebody said, "Oh, okay, all the Canes haters in the top 12. What quarterback replaces Cam Ward? None. Like Cam Ward is probably, in terms of being college quarterbacks, could be the best going into the game every single week in terms of playmaking ability. But in terms of actual NFL ability, that could be a little bit different. But I do want to present you guys. My top 25. My top 25. And it is as it should be. And in my college football playoff rankings, I do have 4 Big Ten teams. And this is just the way it is shaking out. This appears to be the best conference in college football right now. And that's ends up how you end up with these sorts of rankings. All right. I did want to, and so right now I got Oregon 1. We have, yes, we got Oregon 1, Ohio State 2. Then we got Georgia, Penn State, Miami, Texas, Indiana, BYU, Tennessee, SMU, Notre Dame, Alabama at 12, Boise State at 13, Texas A&M, LSU, Ole Miss, Colorado. I want everybody to pay attention to them because they might end up in the college football playoff. And I want you to pay attention to Army too. Because if Boise State loses, Army is going to be the next team that can jump up into the college football playoff between them and Washington State. We got Iowa State, who's, I think, completely out of college football playoff territory. They were favored by double digits last week. Not going to happen. Pitt's schedule is going to be way too tough. Now, Clemson, they still have multiple opportunities to get into the ACC championship. So if they end up in the ACC championship, it doesn't matter whether Clemson is ranked, unranked, wherever you want to put them, they could end up not only just in the college football playoff, but in the top 4 if they make the ACC championship game. And then you got Louisville and you got Vanderbilt. And there's a comment in here by J. Clark 971. If Carson Beck doesn't play better, Georgia is going to get throttled by Ole Miss this weekend. P.S. I'm a Bulldog fan. We have the most inconsistent team in college football this year. You are 100% right. But the problem is that Ole Miss's defense has been giving up the cakes, bro. They've been giving them up. They have just been absolutely just giving them away. They gave Arkansas Arkansas scored 30-some points on them. And this Georgia team with Carson Beck has to play better. But I think that people are confused that this is not the Georgia team of old. This is a whole different team. Offensive line is not quite as good. Defense is getting pushed around a little bit. And that's it. But you guys, though, I appreciate your time here on Unafraid Show meets Bleacher Report with the college football playoff predictions. And if you guys have any more comments, I will check the YouTube chat to see if there's anything over there. And of course, we will always, so on the Unafraid Show, we always have all sorts of content that you guys can always check out and everything else. I'm going to check the chat over there. And then if there's nothing that we need to take care of. Okay, I was just asked, can we do an episode on the FCS? So my son is in the FCS over at UC Davis. So yeah, that actually might be a thing, Blaine. If it means so much to the SEC, why are they playing November cupcakes? Because it means more to get into the playoff. Because if you have teams that are because if you have teams that are playing in the that other conferences are playing conference games, and you have teams that are playing inferior talent, like for instance, you have Alabama who's playing Mercer in 2 weeks. You have it's other SEC teams that are playing. Texas A&M is playing New Mexico State. Come on, man. That would only matter if Pavia was there and they were playing Auburn. Yeah, so it's not a good look. I hate it, and I hope that fans hate it. And Georgia plays UMass in 3 weeks as well. It's absolutely terrible. Tennessee plays UTEP. And I'm going to tell you this on the way out. At the end of the day, because people will say whatever. They will call me a hater. They will say I'm biased and everything else. Here is the most important thing. I am a college football fan. I love college football. It's the most important sport in the world to me. I would rather the teams that I like, support, and anything lose a good college football game, playing a better schedule than just throw something out there in November, than just to throw something out there. Give me at least 10 Power 4 games. and we will live with the results. No, everybody wants to make the college football playoff, win the national championship, but we only get 12 opportunities to watch college football. And let's make them all great. And the last question, which I think is great, which is Colorado would have to win the Big 12 to get in. No, yes, they're absolutely going to have to win the Big 12 because that's the only way that they're going to be able to, like, they're not going to be able to take another loss and ascend in the rankings. Does Indiana make it in with an 11-1 loss to Ohio State? 100%. That'll put them either at third or fourth in the Big Ten, depending on the standings with Penn State. But I'm gonna tell you this: stop. I am going to implore the committee: stop paying attention to the logos. Do the right thing. But you guys, like I told you, this is Unafraid Show on Bleacher Report. And thank you for your time. Go over to at George Wrighster, at Unafraid Show, YouTube, everything else in between. Appreciate you. We'll be back soon. Peace.